October 14th, 2020, Pine Hill County Forest, Georgia. The shovel struck something hollow beneath the packed earth. "Hold up," Deputy Rivera said, freezing mid-swing. His flashlight beam followed the edge of twisted metal poking through the soil. The forest was silent, unnaturally so, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Rivera dropped to his knees and cleared more dirt with his hands. Rust, yellow paint, curved siding. His voice cracked when he called out to the others. It's a bus." The deputy's breath came fast as the shape emerged. Windows shattered, frame bent, the number 57 barely visible beneath 3 decades of moss and decay. But it wasn't just what they found. It was how deep it was buried. And the question that would haunt Pine Hill again: where were the children? What comes next will change everything. To uncover the truth hidden in the shadows, stay with us. Subscribe to Missing Shadows, where every story whispers a secret. Elena Hartman had spent her adult life outrunning ghosts, but they always found her in the quiet moments. She was 43 now, living alone in a modest brownstone in Charleston, South Carolina, just 3 hours from the town she had sworn never to return to. A successful trauma counselor by profession, Elena had written 2 books on childhood grief, appeared on morning talk shows, and was praised for her calm empathy in the face of other people's pain. But in the privacy of her own home, she couldn't sleep without the hallway light on. She kept the windows locked, triple-checked the doors, and once a year on the second weekend of October, she unplugged her phone, closed the blinds, and didn't speak to a soul. Her assistant, Marcia, had long stopped asking why. The truth was, Elena used to be Elena Moore, and in 1990 she was a shy 10-year-old girl with crooked teeth and a purple backpack, the last child to board bus number 57 that Friday afternoon. Except she never made it to her seat. She had tripped on the front steps, scraped her knee, and was sent back inside the school to the nurse's office. By the time she got patched up, the bus had already pulled away. She was the only one who didn't vanish. 30 years later, she still felt like an intruder in her own life, a living ghost, spared by accident. That morning, Elena had just brewed her coffee when the news alert flashed across her phone. Breaking Bus 57, discovered buried in Georgia forest after 30 years missing. She dropped the cup. It shattered across the floor. Her body went cold. The past wasn't done with her yet. October 12th, 1990, Pine Hill Consolidated School. The bell rang, and 10-year-old Elena Moore was already halfway down the hallway, her purple backpack bouncing behind her. She clutched a friendship bracelet in one hand, a pink and green woven thread that her best friend, Casey Raines, had made during recess. "Wait for me," Casey had shouted, but Elena had taken off ahead, eager to get the best window seat on bus number 57. The pavement was slick from a morning drizzle. As she stepped onto the bus's first step, her foot slipped. She fell hard, scraping her knee, the bracelet flying out of her hand and landing somewhere under the bus. The pain made her gasp, but it was Mr. Hollis Carter's reaction that she remembered most. His kind eyes looking genuinely worried. "You all right, sweetheart? That's a nasty scrape." He helped her to her feet and gently guided her back into the building, calling out to the bus monitor to wait. But the monitor didn't hear. By the time the school nurse finished cleaning the wound and Elena returned to the loop, the bus was gone. Just gone. The next few hours were a blur. Teachers phoning homes, parents arriving in panic, police officers asking questions she didn't understand. By sunset, Pine Hill was drowning in confusion and grief. And Elena was no longer a normal child. She became the one who didn't get on. Reporters stalked her yard. Neighbors whispered. Kids at school stopped looking her in the eye. Some parents, including Casey's mother, couldn't even bear to see her. "She should have been on that bus too," one woman had murmured at the grocery store. not realizing Elena was standing right behind her. The survivor's guilt nested deep in her bones. Why her? Her therapist once called it survival displacement, but no label could explain the dreams. The ones where she was back on the bus, screaming to get off, but no one heard. Where the trees swallowed the road and her friends faded like fog. She never returned to Pine Hill after graduation. She changed her last name, buried the memories, wrote books that helped others heal while never fully addressing her own wound. And yet, some nights, especially in October, she would still hear the sound of a school bus idling in the distance, faint, hollow, like an engine echoing from beneath the earth. It wasn't just the mystery that haunted her. It was the unbearable silence of never knowing. October 14th, 2020, Charleston, South Carolina. Elena stared at the news alert on her phone, its bold text blinking like a dare. Breaking, Bus 57 discovered after 30 years, buried in Georgia woods. Her body refused to move. The ceramic shards of her shattered coffee mug glittered at her feet like broken teeth. Somewhere outside, a lawnmower hummed. Birds chirped. The world cruelly unchanged. But inside her chest, something shifted. The article was short. Too short. It offered no real answers. Authorities were remaining tight-lipped. The site was remote. Forensics teams had arrived. No mention of human remains, but they had found the bus. It had taken 30 years, and somehow it was still here, hiding in the woods like a secret that couldn't quite stay buried. Elena's hands trembled as she opened her laptop and searched for more. News outlets had picked it up nationwide. Pine Hill County Forest, near Old Creek Road. That was the very route her bus had taken every day. Then her eyes locked on a detail that hadn't been mentioned in the mobile alert. Found beneath 8 feet of soil, the vehicle appears to have been intentionally buried. Investigators report signs of damage to the rear exit door. Forensic teams will begin an excavation today. She exhaled sharply. Damage to the rear door. Her memory stung. Elena remembered Casey always sitting in the very last seat, right by that emergency exit. She would press her nose to the window, draw hearts in the fog, and wave goodbye even after the bus turned the corner. Before she could stop herself, Elena reached for her old cedar chest. Buried deep inside were fragments of a life she never revisited. Newspaper clippings, drawings, a photo album with curled pages. And there, tucked between 2 folded notes, was a half-finished pink and green friendship bracelet, the one Casey had made. Elena's breath caught. For the first time in decades, she felt something she hadn't allowed herself to feel. A flicker of hope, irrational, childlike, dangerous. That's when her landline rang. She didn't recognize the number. No one called her landline. She picked up. Elena Moore? The voice was male, rough like gravel, but careful with her name. She paused. Who is this? I work with the recovery team. My name's Adam Keller. I was told to reach out to you because your name was on something we found inside the bus. A cold weight settled in her stomach. What do you mean, my name? There was a long pause. Paper rustled. A note. It looks like it was torn from a journal page. It says, if something happens to us, tell Elena Moore. He drives past the mill road twice, not once. Elena went numb. Her ears rang. Keller spoke again, softer now. We don't know what it means yet, but whoever wrote it, they thought you'd still be looking. Elena gripped the edge of the table, her pulse thundering in her ears. She hadn't heard her full name spoken aloud in years. That version of her had died long ago. But someone had believed she'd return. A door inside her had been kicked open. The past wasn't done, and now neither was she. October 15, 2020, Pine Hill, Georgia. The sign read, Welcome to Pine Hill. Established. 1884. A place to call home. Elena's stomach twisted as she drove past it, her hands locked on the steering wheel. The landscape looked the same. Lazy hills, thick pine trees, and rust-red barns tucked behind sagging fences. But everything felt smaller now, like a movie set built to imitate memory. 30 years had passed, but the road back still knew her. She followed the directions Adam Keller had emailed. He was part of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation's Cold Case Division, recently assigned to the Pine Hill discovery. His message had been simple. Meet me at the old church off Mill Road, noon. As Elena drove, pieces of her childhood emerged like ghosts from the trees. The old water tower where they used to climb and dare each other to jump. The ice cream shack that had been boarded up since '97, and the gutted remains of the lumber mill that once gave the town its heartbeat. Then came Mill Road. She pulled into the gravel lot of the abandoned church, its steeple crooked, the paint peeling like burnt skin. A lone black SUV sat under a maple tree. Adam Keller stepped out. He looked to be in his late 40s, tall with a weather-beaten face and the kind of eyes that had seen too much. He gave her a quiet nod. "Ms. Hartman," he greeted. "Elena's fine," she replied, stepping out of the car, her boots crunching gravel. They entered the church. Dust hung in the air like old breath. A single table was set up with files, photos, and a large aerial map of the forest site. Adam pointed to a small plastic evidence bag. Inside it was a torn page, faded, stained, but legible. Elena leaned in. There it was, Casey's handwriting. "If something happens to us, tell Elena Moore. He drives past the Mill Road twice, not once." She read it over and over, trying to anchor herself. "We carbon dated the ink and paper. It's from the early '90s, Adam said. "It must have been stashed before. Well, before the bus was buried." Elena blinked hard. "So she was alive, at least long enough to write this." "We believe so." She looked up, her voice trembling. "But why me? Why would she write to me?" "Because maybe she thought you were the only one who'd come looking." Elena felt her knees go weak. She sat down. Adam gave her a moment before speaking again. "Do you know what this message could mean? Drives past the Mill Road twice?" Elena stared at the note. Twice. Not once. A memory flickered. Back in 1990, Mr. Hollis Carter had a routine route. He'd take the forest road that looped past the mill once. A shortcut, they'd called it. But just days before the disappearance, he'd started doubling back due to nearby logging construction. "Elena," she looked up. "I think she was trying to tell me who took them." Adam leaned forward. "Go on." She knew the route. She knew the change. Whoever did this, they didn't plan for Casey to leave a message. Adam's phone buzzed. He excused himself to take the call, stepping outside. Elena walked toward the altar where sunlight cut through a cracked stained glass window. As she stared at the colors on the floor, she noticed something else. A burned corner of paper beneath a pew. Not old like the others. Fresher. She reached for it carefully. It was a drawing, pencil lines, children inside a bus. A figure standing outside, face blank, wearing a wide-brimmed hat. Her breath caught. That detail wasn't from memory. It was from her dreams. And it wasn't just returning to Pine Hill that scared her now. It was the feeling that someone or something had been waiting for her to come back. Later that evening, Elena sat in her rental car just outside the Pine Hill Sheriff's Department, her fingers tracing the edges of the burned drawing she'd found in the church. She couldn't explain it, but something about the image unsettled her more than anything so far. The figure with the wide-brimmed hat. It felt familiar, not in a remembered way, but in a lived one, as if it had followed her through time. Inside the station, Adam Keller met her at the door. His face was pale. "We ran the full scan on the bus interior," he said, his voice tight. Found something. He handed her a clear plastic evidence sleeve. It was a school ID badge. Bent, dusty. The photo scratched but readable. Hollis Carter, the bus driver. Wait, Elena blinked. I thought they never found his body. They didn't, Adam said quietly. But that ID was wedged under the driver's seat. And the blood sample on the lanyard strap? It's a match to someone in the system. She looked at him, heart racing. His? No. A pause. Yours. Elena froze. What? It's old, degraded, but partial DNA is a match to your family line. We believe you were bleeding the day of the incident, right? Scraped your knee? She nodded slowly. Yeah. Adam inhaled. There's more. The blood was on the inside of the badge, which means you had it, and someone placed it back later. Her throat dried. I don't understand. We think you took the badge that day, maybe by accident, maybe not. But here's the kicker. Someone else logged into the school's personnel database 2 years after the disappearance, from your childhood home's IP address. Elena's skin went cold. That's impossible. My parents didn't even have a computer until the late 90s. Adam handed her a second file. A login history, traced, cross-referenced, labeled. The username was hcarter90. She looked up. You think someone was pretending to be him? We think someone was using his credentials after the disappearance, and the only house that login came from was yours. Elena stumbled back into the wall. No, she whispered. That's wrong. That's insane. I agree, Adam said carefully, unless someone close to you knew more than they let on. Her mind spun. Her mother had died in 2005, her father in 2010. She'd never suspected either of them of anything beyond keeping secrets to protect her. But this? Wait, she whispered. My uncle, Adam raised an eyebrow. My mother's brother, she said. He stayed with us that fall, after the bus disappeared. He said he came to help. But, what? He used to walk past my room at night, humming some old folk song. Every time I woke up, he'd just smile and say he was checking in. I thought he was just trying to comfort me. Adam leaned forward. Do you have a name? Elijah. Elijah Rains. Adam froze. His jaw tightened. Rains? Elena's heart sank. Yeah, he's Casey's uncle too. Her dad's younger brother. Adam grabbed a file from the corner of the table and flipped it open. We pulled a list of town maintenance workers from that era. Anyone who might have had keys to the school, access to transportation records, or off-the-books building permits. Elijah Rains was on that list. He was fired in '91, after someone reported unsettling behavior around children. No charges were ever filed. Elena's voice cracked. Why didn't anyone ever tell me? Because the complaint was anonymous and buried, likely by someone in the school board. She dropped into the chair. Her whole body trembled. All this time, she whispered, I thought I survived by accident, but maybe I was never meant to be on that bus. Adam looked at her, his voice low. Maybe you were spared. Elena stared at the file in front of her. Suddenly, the truth wasn't just about what happened on that bus. It was about why she was never on it to begin with, and who made sure she stayed behind. October 17, 2020, 2:08 a.m., Pine Hill, Georgia. The old farmhouse sat at the end of a gravel path overgrown with weeds, its shutters sagging like tired eyes. The address hadn't changed since 1990. It was Elijah Rains' property, long abandoned but never sold, a forgotten relic, like so much else in Pine Hill. Elena stood at the edge of the porch, flashlight in one hand, heart pounding like it wanted out of her chest. Adam had begged her to wait until morning. Let the team check it out first, he had said. But she couldn't wait, not now. Not after reading the note tucked into her childhood photo album, one that had somehow ended up in her father's attic. He took them. He said it was for protection. I didn't believe him. I don't think anyone will. But if Elena ever finds this, tell her I'm sorry I didn't speak sooner. Dad. She pushed the door open. The smell hit her first. Mildew, rot, and something faintly metallic. The air was thick, cold. She moved through the dark with trembling steps, flashlight grazing walls stained with time. In the living room, photos hung crookedly. One in particular stopped her, a picture of Casey as a child, smiling, wearing the same pink and green bracelet Elena had never finished. She swallowed the lump rising in her throat and moved toward the basement door. It groaned open. The stairs creaked beneath her as she descended, each step tighter than the last. The beam of light caught cobwebs, boxes, a rusted water heater, and then something else. A wall, but not just any wall, a false one. Thin plywood, mismatched paint. Elena's breath caught. She pressed her ear against it. Silence. She found a crowbar leaning against the corner and wedged it between the frame and the drywall. With a cracking sound, the panel gave way. Behind it was a small room, no more than 10 feet across, empty except for a chair and a tape recorder on the floor. Her knees buckled as she stepped inside. Hands shaking, she pressed play. The tape hissed, then a voice, low, calm, male. If you're hearing this, then you came looking. I didn't want you to, but I always knew you would. She dropped to her knees. They weren't supposed to suffer. I just wanted to protect them. The world is cruel, Elena. It forgets children. It buries them. I couldn't let that happen again. The voice paused, a breath. You were spared because I loved you like one of my own. I told your father to keep you home that day, to trip you up if he had to. He agreed. Tears spilled down Elena's face. I gave them a place where no one would hurt them again, where they'd always be together. I buried the bus, but I didn't bury the truth. That part, I left for you. Click. Silence. Elena sat on the basement floor, heart breaking open, breath ragged. The man she called Uncle Eli had stolen everything from her and still claimed it was love, her friends, her childhood, her peace, and her father had known, had kept her safe. But at what cost? She wanted to scream, to rage, to tear the room apart. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered Casey's name. 3 weeks later, Charleston, South Carolina. The headlines had come and gone. Missing bus mystery solved after 30 years. Basement tapes lead to break-in cold case. Pine Hill's silent guardian or madman? Locals divided over Elijah Raines. Elena had spoken to no reporters. She didn't want a book deal or a Netflix documentary. She wanted sleep. She wanted silence. But neither came easily. The basement had revealed no bodies, only the recording, the photos, and boxes of belongings belonging to the children. Their clothes, their journals, their drawings. A monument to a stolen generation hidden in a forgotten cellar. Authorities now believed Elijah had sedated the children, maybe under the pretense of safety, before burying the bus. There was no evidence of torture, no sign of struggle, just a chilling calm, as if the man truly believed what he'd done was merciful. Elijah Raines had vanished in 1992. No body, no trace. Some believed he was dead. Others whispered he had never left. But Elena had stopped chasing ghosts. She sat in her backyard now, watching the sunrise, a mug of tea in her hands. The mornings were still hard, but she could breathe again. She had returned the bracelet to Casey's parents, now in their 70s, who held it as if it were their daughter's heartbeat. They had cried, not in anger, but in gratitude, for remembrance, for the truth, for someone to have come back. Elena had also submitted her DNA to a national database, and so far, 2 partial matches have been flagged. Unidentified remains found decades ago, one in Tennessee, one in Alabama. Adam Keller promised to follow every lead, but for now there was peace in knowing the silence wasn't hers to carry alone anymore. In her home office, the walls were still bare, the shelves empty, except for one frame. It held a photo of a 10-year-old girl in a purple backpack, standing on the steps of a yellow school bus, smiling. Not because she was spared, but because somehow she had survived long enough to speak for those who didn't. Some wounds never close. They just learn to breathe. Elena stood by the edge of a quiet lake one evening, the pink and green bracelet wrapped gently around her wrist. The breeze stirred the trees, and for a moment she imagined the sound of laughter echoing through the pines, faint, fragile, but unmistakably familiar. They were gone, but they were never truly lost. Truth, no matter how long buried, always finds a way to the surface. And sometimes, the ones left behind aren't just survivors. They're messengers, the ones who remember, the ones who return. Craving twisted mysteries and haunting tales? Hit subscribe before the story fades into the shadows.